This is too bizarre to be made up. It's, you know how they say the truth is stranger than fiction, right? This is bizarre stuff. We've got Jesus having been crucified, and then he's buried in a tomb, and then his followers, the people who have been doing life with him for 3 years, the ladies come early in the morning to do a burial. They want to make his body smell good. They want to make, they bring herbs and spices and aloe. This is typical, and they want to just honor their Savior and their Lord, even though he died. And so they come early in the morning while it's still dark. And this story follows Mary's actions. Mary Magdalene, who had 7 demons in her before Jesus met her. She was demon-possessed. She was living really, really, really bad in whatever way. It doesn't say, but we know if you got 7 demons living in you, you aren't living good. I think I might have had 1, and I was not living good. But he delivers her. He sends these demons out, and she, as a result, loves Jesus. When nobody else gave Mary a chance, Jesus did. And as a result, she loved him much. And so when he died, she was wrecked, and she comes to the tomb at between 3 and 6 in the morning to honor the Lord. I don't know about you, but I would have been hitting the snooze button. But she comes early before light. Why? Because she wants to be near the Lord, even though he's dead. She knows nobody's comforted me like him. And when people die, we often go to the grave where they're at to talk to them. Something about being close to them is comforting. And that's what she did. She wanted the comfort that comes from being with her Savior. And so she comes, but she finds anything but comfort. She gets there. The stone that was blocking the tomb in, keeping him in, and keeping body snatchers, tomb raiders out, because they were worried somebody was going to come steal his body and make a bigger show of this whole Jesus thing. The stone is gone, and the tomb is empty. And Mary freaks. She's like, what have they done? They stole the Savior. Someone took the body and removed it. They've moved him. Not comforted. But she was wrong. But she and the other ladies with her have a conversation with some angels, and the angels tell them, hey, look, he's not here because he's still alive. And this isn't in this particular story of it, but there's other versions. Every gospel, there's 4 different stories. You put it all together, you get a big picture of the whole thing. But these angels tell him, Jesus isn't here, he's still alive. And the ladies run and tell the disciples, the 11 disciples at this point, the closest guys to Jesus. And what do they say? You ladies are crazy. That didn't happen. You're delusional. And they all just sit there, except for 2 of them. See, Peter and John, their ears perked up. And Peter and John stood up and booked it to the tomb. Is this true? And it says, John, the disciple whom Jesus loved, the disciple who wrote this book, it says, that guy beat the other guy to the tomb, beat Peter. You don't add these little details unless this is like you're really telling a story. Like, hey, I beat the other guy. They get to the tomb. John looks in, sees no body, and just stops in his tracks. He's like, whoa, he's not in there. Peter, being Peter, if you've ever heard anything about Peter, he's bullheaded. He's a bull in a china shop. And what does he do? Get out of the way, John. Runs into the tomb, sees Jesus' linen garment that they wrapped him in, his mummy suit. They wrapped him in before, during burial, and it's undisturbed. It's like it's still in the shape of a body. And Peter is perplexed. He's not the smartest guy, but he's a hard, loyal, hard-fighting guy, but he's perplexed. He's scratching his head. How can this be? Then John comes in. He sees, and verse 8 says, he believes. Because they didn't yet understand that Jesus would have to die and be in the grave for 3 days and then rise. But when John saw the empty tomb, it moved him to belief. He was like, he is alive. He is alive. And that's the main point of it all, is that the empty tomb is evidence that Jesus is the Messiah, the Christ, the Anointed One. And John didn't see Jesus standing up alive. And we don't have to either. He saw the evidence of the empty tomb. He saw the evidence, and he believed. I think the greatest evidence that there was an empty tomb for us today is logic. Logic. It's the only thing that makes sense. When you look at it, it's the only thing that makes sense. When you think about how the other stories talk about what the religious leaders did as a result of the empty tomb. It doesn't say that these religious leaders who were trying to that killed Jesus, it doesn't say they tried to make up this fabricated story to say, tell people Jesus is really in there. Roll the stone back and tell them he's really in there. Or what they did say was, tell people his followers came and stole the body. Why would they be saying, tell them that someone stole the body if there was not an empty tomb? You see, they screwed up. They should have tried to cover up the empty tomb. Because the empty tomb is the people who are against Jesus and the followers of Jesus go, there was an empty tomb. Now, how is there an empty tomb when Rome, the world's superpower, and these religious leaders, they had guards outside of it that were willing to die before they would let anybody come in and take this body, because they had specific instructions. You need to stay there. The religious leaders knew Jesus and who he was and what he was claiming. They said, look, he said he's going to rise after 3 days. Guard this tomb with your life. Guard it with the best you've got. And don't let anyone steal the body, because then they're going to make up this story that Jesus rose. So they knew. So they set it up to where it couldn't happen. And then when it did happen, they tried to cover it up with something that doesn't quite cover it up. They should have covered up the door, because the empty tomb means something. If they were smart, which they were smart, if to cover it up, they should have gotten rid of the empty tomb altogether. But the empty tomb means something. And the only logical thing, if you really study it out, not just in the Bible, but if you just think this thing through, the only logical thing is Jesus stood up and walked out.